अस्सलाम वालेकुम खातिन हज़रात, मैं हूँ इसरार कसाना। आपको पता है पिछले दिनों से खबरें आ रही हैं फ़लस्तीन के हवाले से, गज़ा से, जिस तरीके से इसराइल ने एक इनडिस्क्रिमिनेट और बहुत ही, मैं समझता हूँ, डेस्टर्डली अटैक किया था फ़लस्तीन के लोगों के ऊपर, गज़ा में ख़ास तौर पे, और जिस तरीके से लोगों को मारा गया वहाँ पे। मस्जिद अक्सा में आपको पता है उससे पहले लोगों पे अटैक किया गया। तो एक 11 दिन का ये जो अटैक था, अगरचे अल्लाह का शुक्र है कि उसमें थोड़ा सा अब सीज फायर हुआ है, लेकिन इसका बैकग्राउंड क्या था और किस तरीके से ये सारा मामला हुआ, उसके लिए मैं समझ रहा था कि किन लोगों से बात करूं, सिवाय उनके जो वहां पे रहते हैं, कौन इतना रेलेवेंट हो सकता है। तो इसीलिए मैंने वहां पे गजा से हमारे एक दोस्त हैं, उनसे हमने कोशिश की कि उनसे रब्ता किया जाए, और ये मैं आपको बताऊं कि ये बड़ी मुश्किल से हमारा उनसे रब्ता हुआ है। और बहुत ही मैं खुश हूं कि आज हमें ज्वाइन करेंगे डॉक्टर अली अबू रज़ाक, और ये गजा से हैं, लेकिन ऑब्वियसली हम उनसे बात करेंगे इंग्लिश में। तो मैं उनसे आपका तारुफ भी करवाता हूँ, लेकिन पहले मैं उनसे स्क्रीन पे ला के उनसे बात करता हूँ। अस्सलाम वालेकुम डॉक्टर अली।
Walaikum salam, walaikum salam. Thank you, brother Israr, for having me in this interview.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you. And let me introduce you to my viewers. Viewers, Dr. Ali Abo Rezag, he is a PhD. Uh, he's so young and he's already a PhD in international relations. He's also a journalist and a research scholar, an op-ed writer for Daily Sabah. And he is obviously Palestinian from Gaza Strip. So I'm really, really honored and very pleased, Ali, to be interviewing with you. And it's really a pleasure, especially not because that you are a Palestinian, but because the resilience you have showed, the resistance you have showed. I think salutes to you and salutes to your community. Give us the 360 view of the situation right now. What are you looking at, and what is the actual situation on ground right now?
Thank you, brother Israr. Thank you for having me in this interview. My pleasure too, for sure. I'm extremely happy to have this interview with brother from Pakistan, and salute for all you viewers as well. At the beginning, actually, the salute should be there to the 240 people who got massacred, who got martyred by the Israeli occupation during the latest aggression against the Gaza Strip. Another salute to our brothers who got injured. We have more than 1,900 people who got injured by the Israeli occupation forces. We ask Allah, we were praying for their safety and their speed recovery, inshallah. The current situation, actually, we are 2 days after a ceasefire, an Egypt-sponsored ceasefire between the Palestinian resistance groups and Israel. But the situation we can describe as a cautious calm. You know, in any point, in any time, the situation is gonna be ignited again as the Israeli soldiers, accompanied by the Israeli settlers, unfortunately, for the second day in a row, they are attacking the Al-Aqsa Mosque and invading Al-Aqsa Mosque, our holiest place in Palestine, and one of the holiest places for Muslim Ummah across the globe. For today, for the second day in a row, the dozens of Israeli settlers, unfortunately, we forced their way into Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the situation in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood, unfortunately, it's the same as Israel imposed a blockade, or like, not a blockade, actually a siege on the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood, not allowing people to go into or to go out from the neighborhood. The situation is difficult. Israel, unfortunately, destroyed thousands or maybe dozens of thousands of housing units in the Gaza Strip, and that all took place under apathy of international community who okayed the Israeli aggression against civilians, against defenseless, disarmed people in the Gaza Strip. If we have a look, brother, as you've mentioned, More than 50% of the people who got killed, unfortunately, they are civilians, they are children, they are women. We have 66 of children got massacred in a cold blood by Israel, unfortunately, and we have more than 40 women who the all think they were, how can I say, they were taking care of the children. Unfortunately, we have many miserable cases. We have children who lost their moms. We have moms who lost their children, and we have fathers who stayed alone as their families got whipped out of the Palestinian records as Palestinians. We have full families got killed during the Israel aggression, which is, as you mentioned, this is something to blame for the international community who okayed, who waited, who stood doing nothing, who turned a blind eye on the Israel aggression and said nothing until dozens or hundreds of Palestinians massacred, and then they intervened, unfortunately.
So, brother, first of all, hats off to you. Despite all this travails and everything, you still have a smile on your face, and sure. Trust me, it's so tough and it's so painful. Tell me, you just mentioned the cost in terms of human lives and the damage done to the whole city, but cost in terms of dreams lost and shattered. Do you think it's a bigger even cost for the youth, especially? Now their dreams have been shattered, whatever they were dreaming of.
Yeah, this is unfortunate what Israel is trying to do. Actually, it's not only attacking our lives. It's not only massacring civilians, or they are as if I don't know if you have seen the video of a 10-year-old Palestinian girl from the Gaza Strip. She said in different occasions, she said many times that I'm only 10. I'm only 10.
Yes,
why they are attacking?
It.
Yeah, why they are attacking our house? I'm only 10. And if you've seen the kid, she's saying I'm only 10 in a very surprising way. I'm only 10. I want to be a doctor. I don't know why this. How can I say, girl? Why they are attacking it? They are attacking it for. Brother, believe me, they are attacking everything Palestinian. They said one day that a good Palestinian, or the Palestinian good is a Palestinian dead. We want to see all our lives being massacred. We want to see all our children being like orphaned, even orphaned. Yes, we will like it if we say if they see thousands or hundreds of thousands of Palestinians orphaned by the Israeli army. When you talk about Palestinian dreams, brother, we are living to dream. We are living. Martin Luther King, one day, I have a dream. The main cause behind the Martin Luther King's victory against the discrimination.
I have a dream. Yes.
Was his dream?
He was. That speech is very famous speech. But he also said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." This is what Martin Luther King said too.
That's it. That's why they are fearing of dozens of thousands of Palestinian Martin Luther King. Yeah, we have millions of children who are dreaming if they want to continue their studies. And if we go back to that girl, she said again, I want to be a doctor. She want to be a doctor. And I'm sure that she's going to insist to her dream to be a doctor, to save the Palestinian injured, or to save other Palestinian people. We hope, inshallah, when this beautiful girl got graduated, inshallah, to Palestine to be free from the river to the sea,
inshallah.
And as you mentioned, they are attacking our dreams, and they wanna, how can I say, even not only divide our dreams, to whip our dreams, or to terminate our dreams. Imagine if there is a 25 Palestinian. I'm from the Gaza Strip. Imagine if there is a 25 years old Palestinian, and he didn't see even a single plane landing on a Palestinian airport, simply because Israel destroyed our airport, our only airport, and Israel doesn't allow us to construct another airport. Imagine if there is a 25 years old Palestinian, or even less or more, he didn't see a single ship docking on our shores. Why? Because Israel doesn't allow us to construct a seaport. Imagine Now we are living in the 21st century, and if there is a Palestinian young man wanted to travel to continue his studies abroad, he has to travel to another country to go to his destination. I have to go to Cairo, and then from Cairo I have to go to another place to continue my studies. This is miserable. We are living in the 21st century, and
actually, Dr. Ali, this is basically what it is. That this is a dehumanization of Palestinian people, not just Gaza. It's a whole people. Palestinian people are being dehumanized.
Yes, and I'm talking about Gaza at first. Let's go to the Sheikh Jarrah and have a look on this Israeli settler called Yaqub. When Yaqub, when he was speaking to Muna al-Kurd, when he was explaining to Muna al-Kurd, the Palestinian girl from the Sheikh Jarrah, he told her, Muna was telling him, why are you stealing my house? He said, Yaqub said, simply because if I didn't steal it, someone else will come and steal it. This is the Israeli mentality.
Oh my God.
This is the apartheid mentality. This is apartheid. This is nothing but apartheid. And brother, I'm not. It's not Ali who said that Israel state is apartheid state. It's the Human Rights Watch, which is a New York-based non-governmental organization. In a two-year investigative report, they came out with many conclusions that Israel is nothing but apartheid state. And as far as I know, they didn't go to Gaza. That report was based on facts in the West Bank and from inside Israel.
Right.
Imagine now in the West Bank, if you have a land with 300 acres or 200 acres or even less, and you're seeing or looking to your land that being decreased on daily basis. Why? Because Israel is expanding its borders. Even Israel is not recognizing that it has borders. They keep increasing, they keep expanding their security fence in order to capture, to grab, to steal more of the Palestinian lands. That was depending on what? Depending on the deal of the century, or I'm calling it the steal of the century. Those people in the West Bank are suffering from the settlements as well.
As a matter of fact,
and Palestinians, last thing, Palestinians from inside Israel, they are suffering. Palestinians who took to the streets, the people called Arab Israelis or Israeli Arabs, those are Palestinians. Palestinians make up nearly 20% of the Israeli population. Those Israel is discriminating against these people as well in terms of work, in terms of health, in terms of education. Those people also suffer from the Israeli occupation. That's why Palestinians are taking to the streets. That's why Palestinians are resisting. That's why Palestinians are saying no. They want us being slaughtered silently. They want to kill us, injure us, slaughter us, terminate our cause, end our rights, kill our future dreams, and they want from us to keep silent. Now to say even no in the face of Israel. That's it.
Absolutely. You mentioned about the apartheid, Dr. Ali. As a matter of fact, South Africa has mentioned that Israel is in apartheid. Who else is more suitable to say that? You know, South Africa has suffered under the apartheid regime. So now they are telling the international community that Israel is an apartheid regime. So I think the international community must listen to them, and especially, you know, can I talk about some countries' role in this whole scenario, especially the Muslim countries in, like, for instance, Pakistan, Turkey, Malaysia, Indonesia? Do you think they played an effective role in bringing this ceasefire into existence?
Brother, thanks all for the Muslim countries, for the Arab countries, for the free people across the globe. I think during this Israeli aggression, we've seen thousands of from the Muslim Ummah, from the free people across. We see actually hundreds, if not thousands, of activities in support of Palestine. And in this regard, actually, I'm telling that in the media coverage, in the social media issues, I think Palestinians restored the balance of power in terms of media and in terms of the social media. That's why the Israeli leaders and the Israeli officials are extremely outraged by the reaction came from the Muslim Ummah, from the Arab countries. We've seen dozens of protests in Pakistan, in Turkey,
Yes.
in Malaysia, in Indonesia, and that actually is depicting how this ummah and this nation is still alive, and still how the Palestinian cause is still the central or the main significant cause that unites not only Arabs, not only the Muslim ummah, that unites the free people across the globe to help Palestinians. Now we've seen activities, how can I say, from Muslims, from Arabs, from Christians, even from among Jews, those people who wanted Israel,
Yes.
who are exerting pressure against Israel to end its occupation.
I've seen demonstrations within Israel also.
Yes, which shows the not only the justice of the Palestinian cause, but there is an international need. Now there is a global need to end the Israeli occupation.
Right.
We've seen in the latest aggression that if you had a look on a protest in London, our friend there told us that in London 200,000 of people took to the streets only in London alone. Those people just wanna send a message to the international community, to the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and the US President, the EU, the European Union, and unfortunately the democratic EU, European Union. Unfortunately, we've seen French authorities blocking pro-Palestine protests not to be organized inside. This is, how can I say, a slab to the principles, to the ideas, of freedom, of liberty that the French Revolution 2 centuries ago came with. Unfortunately, it was a very big mistake. As I mentioned, those people are saying, taken to the streets for one goal, for one aim, just to end the Israeli occupation, which, as I mentioned now in the media coverage and the protests across the world showed that Palestinians restored the balance of power in this regard.
Yes, absolutely. But there is another factor, Dr. Ali, and that is that the people on the street are saying something, but rulers among the Muslim world, they have some different views, especially in some Arab countries. Do you think there is a big difference between the public opinion and the ruler's opinion?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, yes. We have 2 or 3 Arab countries that they normalized their ties with Israel during the last year, the end of the last year. And unfortunately, we've seen the peoples of those Arab countries taking to the streets, saying to the countries, stop the normalization process with Israel. The Israeli atrocities committed against Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip and the discrimination, the apartheid actions in the West Bank and Jerusalem, and even inside Israel against Palestinians. This shows nothing but how this state is apartheid, how this state is a discriminative state, is a killer state, is a terrorist state. Yes, many presidents or prime ministers of Muslim world, they said it in a very frank way. This state is a terrorist state. They are terrorizing Palestinian people. They are victimizing Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip and West Bank, everywhere. And believe me, Palestinians are not only the first line of defending Palestinians, they are the first line of defending Arab countries. They are the first line of defending the Muslim Ummah.
But do you think this normalization process will stop now, or at least slow down?
Slow down, but unfortunately, it will not stop. We've seen we have very bad experiences with this regime, with these regimes. We hope that the decision of this regime came from their own governing process. Unfortunately, it comes from outside their own agendas, and it has nothing to do with the aspirations, with the ideas, with the dreams of their own peoples. Unfortunately, they think something, their peoples think something and want something, and they are behaving and they are acting in something totally different and totally contradicted to the aspirations and the dreams, the hopes of their nations. And that's why, if you remember, a decade ago, that's why the Arab Spring came. That's why the flame, the Arab Spring, was ignited at first in Tunisia because of this. And I'm telling them in a very obvious way, very frankly, if these normalization process don't stop, I think another wave of the Arab Spring can be expected. Why? Because during the latest decades, we've seen that always Palestinian people's struggle was like, how can I say, like a hope, represented a hope for the Arab oppressed peoples. And if you remember, if you had a look on the protests being ignited at first in Tunisia, then Egypt and Syria, and all, you should see that the Palestinian flag being waved during the protest against the Arab dictators. We have to tell them that if you don't, how can I say, stop these normalization process, I think your thrones will be threatened. There is a very big menace against your thrones. And that's not my message. It's the message of the scholars, of researchers of their own countries, in Morocco, in Sudan, and different of the Gulf states.
Right. And Dr. Ali, one more thing is very important, that I've seen that Israelis always try to divide the Palestinians among the, Fatah and Hamas and stuff like that, and then PA and, Hamas. So I was reading a statement from a leader of an Israeli party who said that PA is an asset. PA is a liability, and Hamas is an asset. So whenever they think they have to use Hamas as a bogey, they use Hamas as a terrorist organization and attack Palestinian people.
You mean they wanna to demonize Hamas at the expense of Fatah?
Yes, and then they always use this bogey to attack Palestinians. That is why they are calling Hamas as an asset, because they can use it whenever they want to. Any comment on it?
Brother, believe me, I'm not exaggerating if I say that Palestinians were not united against the Israeli occupation, against the Israeli aggression, as they were during the latest days. I've seen people from Fatah, from Hamas, from the popular, from the different Palestinian parties. They are all we're standing on behalf or standing with the Palestinian resistance. But now, even the pro-peace process Palestinians, even the pro-Oslo, but unfortunately still we have many of pro-Oslo Palestinians. Even those people were calling to help the Palestinian resistance, to support the Palestinian resistance. Those people were calling the Palestinian resistance are representing the Palestinian people. This is an ugly game being played by Israel to differentiate or even to divide the Palestinian people, and it's an ugly game was being played by the imperial powers for 3 or 4 centuries to divide and conquer. And this is a very well known for Palestinians. We hope that the Palestinian people, as the Palestinian people were united, we hope again to see the Palestinian leaders, the Palestinian parties, to take all their partition interests away and to unite for Palestine, to unite for Jerusalem, to unite for the Sheikh Jarrah.
I think that is the need of the hour, and you're right. I think after so many years, we have seen so much unity among the Palestinians after this campaign.
Believe me, you've seen Palestinians from Fatah, from Hamas, from the Popular Front, from all Palestinian parties are taking to the streets, celebrating what they call the victory of Palestinian resistance against the Israeli occupation, which is not.
And I think that was the reason we saw the international public opinion, coming out of wherever they were onto the streets and condemning and protesting against these atrocities. One more thing is very important. That is the U.S. role. Do you see any change in the U.S. role? Because I've seen the pressure coming within from the Democratic Party, because I've seen a lot of people, especially the youth among the Democratic Party, pressurizing the U.S. administration. Do you agree with that?
Still, we cannot. We hope to have a change in the U.S. administration's policies regarding the Palestinian cause, as unfortunately the U.S. has been standing for decades with Israel and supporting the Israeli occupation and what took place recently. There was a $750 million deal, a military deal, arms deal with the Israeli occupation, even during the Israeli attacks against civilians, against children, against women in the Gaza Strip. We are happy to see voices from inside the Democratic Party those people are speaking loudly against Israel and against the Israeli occupation. But unfortunately, it's not enough. Still, it's not enough. We've seen that there is a very loud voice from the American people, the American voices rejecting Israel and rejecting the Israeli occupation, atrocities, apartheid, actions against Palestinians. This is okay. This is nice. We like it for sure. And we support it. And it's gonna, how can I say, serve Palestinian people and their cause. But still, it's too early to say that there is a change, a very big change among the U.S. administration circle.
Right.
That
and Dr. Ali, there is another thing which is very prevalent actually nowadays, and that is anti-Semitism, the bogey of anti-Semitism. Recently, our foreign minister was actually harassed during the interview at the CNN. I don't know if you have heard it or not.
Okay.
But right. So, what is this anti-Semitism? Even if you call the atrocities as an atrocity, they call it anti-Semitism. Whenever you criticize Israel, they think that it is anti-Semitic.
It's a kind of an Israeli bid to cover, to cover up or to wash its ugly face, to wash its atrocities, its crimes against Palestinians by reminding the whole world that the Jewish were
Holocaust.
For the Holocaust. It's an ugly game. This is something to say, to show how Israel is like, there are poor agenda among the Israelis. They have nothing to do. They have nothing to say. They have nothing to defend themselves. They have nothing to defend themselves in front of the international community, which have seen the Israeli crimes against humanity, the Israeli war crimes being committed in the Gaza Strip and West Bank, the Israeli crimes, the Israeli discrimination, even inside Israel against the Palestinian Arabs, or the Israeli Arabs, even inside Israel, who make up 20% of the Israeli population. All these atrocities, crimes against the humanity, Israel wanna cover. Israel wanna to shift the international attention, to shift the international pressure that being exerted nowadays against Israel by creating those frames and those by playing on the terminology, unfortunately, as I mentioned, to divert the whole world, the international attention that came to support and help the Palestinian people.
So Brother Ali, finally, can you tell us something about Pakistan? Because I've seen Pakistanis have been coming out on the streets condemning the Israeli action and stuff like that. Even today, we had a lot of protests, and especially the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, he was under too much pressure when this normalization process was going on to recognize Israel. He didn't. So any message for the Prime Minister and the people of Pakistan?
Thanks, for sure. Salute from the Gaza Strip, salute from Palestinian authorities to our brothers in Pakistan, who stood firm against the international pressure and unfortunately against the regional pressure, who came to exert more pressure, to press the Pakistani leadership and the Pakistani people to accept the Israeli state and to have normalization ties with Israel. And this is not new, actually. We have seen the Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the great leader, or the Qaid Azam. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, even before the creation or the establishment of Israel, even before the occupation, when he was asked how he said that Pakistan is going to go to all lengths to help Palestinians. At that time, the New York Times journalist, what are these lengths? He mentioned, he said that all lengths we can use to help our Palestinian brothers. This is not new for our Muslim brothers from Pakistan and everywhere. Thank you. Salute for the great leader of the great leadership of Pakistan, who is still resisting all pressures, all bids to take Pakistan to the normalization process. This is appreciated. Thank you. And this, how can I say this? Not only reinforcing Palestinians. This, how can I say this? Make the Palestinian narrative credible, not only for the Arab countries or the Muslim countries, for the whole world. Look, there is a regional player there is a regional power called Pakistan still resisting against the old pressure to recognize or even to have normalization ties with Israel. This is a big thing. This is a very appreciated thing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali. And trust me, you guys are in our hearts. Palestinians live in our hearts. And, Pakistanis cannot even think of going against you. So
thank you. Thank you. This is appreciated, brother. This is something that you don't have to say. We are believing in it. We are believing.
Yes.
We have something we have something we call the spiritual language or the heart language, and from a heart to it's easy to understand it.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Dr. Ali, thank you very much for your time, and wish you great luck. Wish your dreams come true very soon.
Bismillah. Inshallah. Soon. Sure.
Inshallah. And you'll be free one day, and very soon, inshallah. And Pakistanis will be able to visit you guys in Gaza and everywhere, inshallah. And we'll go to Al-Quds too. Al-Quds too. And that is the dream of the whole Muslim Ummah, inshallah. Thank you very much, and let's stay in touch. And if you ever need any communication links with Pakistanis, our platform is available. So we will talk to you. We'll keep talking to you actually, and our prayers are with you. Thank you very much for your time, and see you very soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. Thank you.